Thank you very much. For another round of applause.
Thank you, Jim.
So now what we'd like to do is to call our third panel up, and we have all the big shots here. Senator Cunningham and Assemblywoman Bonnie Watson Coleman. Could you please come up? Third panel. And we also have with us the Dean of Rutgers School of Criminal Justice. Where is the Right Reverend Todd Clear? And David Rothenberg. The Ganselmacher. It's a good day for the Jews. David, my dear friend. All right. Caroline, John Valverde. So this is a great group. So the first panel we heard from basically individual people that had just come out of reentry. Second panel was focused on the Hudson County experiment. And the third panel is talking about visions for the future. And with that, I'll turn it over to Dean Clear. Dean, ready?
Hello.
Good afternoon. I hope you're all as inspired as I am by what we have heard today. My name is Todd Clear. I'm from Rutgers University, and I am currently the provost University of Newark and former dean of the School of Criminal Justice, and a person who is deeply interested in these issues. And I've been absolutely amazed at the stories that we've heard, and I hope you have been as well. We have a fabulous panel to talk about two issues. Really, the question that we face in a moment like this is, so what do we need to do now? What are the tasks that confront us now? What we've asked each of the panelists to think about is, very quickly, what do you think New Jersey really gets right? And given that we get it right, we got to make sure to keep it raised high so that we continue to do that. But just as importantly, what do we need to start doing that we're not doing now? Or maybe stop doing that we're doing now? And so each of the panelists has been thinking about these questions, and we will talk about these. But before I get into the actual conversation, I'd like to ask each one of the panelists to introduce themselves and talk about where they're from, and I'll start on this end.
Thank you. My name is Caroline Moyley, and closer. Okay. Caroline Moyley. I was an assistant prosecutor in Middlesex County for 35 years, and then I retired, and I started our drug court program there in 2004. And kind of to my surprise, I developed a passion for drug court and rehabilitation and trying to help people who were obviously deserving in many cases to change their lives. So when I retired, I then became an attorney for the Public Defender's Office. I'm still working in drug court, but on the other side. And so I have a different perspective, perhaps, because I've seen it from both sides. What I think we need, and I've heard many wonderful things today, and I was certainly gratified by Jason Williams' comments, and also his struggle that obviously is still continuing to some degree, and also by Governor Christie, who I'm not always his supporter, but at least today he certainly said many things I agree with. But what I don't think anybody has said enough, and I can tell you, drug court is a wonderful option, and it's certainly a refreshing change, but drug court does not do enough. It doesn't provide support. It doesn't help with the transition of people, whether they're leaving prison or they're on probation, however they get to drug court, the transition of needing housing, needing transportation, needing some sort of job that's readily available right then, housing that's readily available right then, just the ability to navigate, to get from one place to another, to get to court, get to your IOP, get to your probation officer every week, get home to be there for your curfew. If you don't have that support, many people fail who would not otherwise. I have seen it time and time again, and I could regale you with stories if I had more time, but I won't do that. So that's my plea, is to support to allow the drug court program now that we're going to add even more people. I don't think we have enough treatment facilities for all these people. I have clients who are sitting in jail in Middlesex County because they are homeless. They cannot come into drug court without a place to live. They can't get a place to live sitting in their pod in the Middlesex County Adult Correction Center. So it's still, to some degree, can be a revolving door. I'm always outspoken, so I'm not against drug court. I'm a tremendous proponent, but I don't think it's been thought through completely.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name's Tom Eicher. I'm the chief of the criminal division in the U.S. Attorney's Office. I've been a prosecutor for 27 years, and I'm just going to introduce myself and then pass it down. But one thing I'd like to point out, that our office today got a lot of credit for starting the first federal reentry court in New Jersey, but actually we had something to do with that, but Judge Hayden, who's here in the audience, was one of the spearheads to say we should have this happen in New Jersey, and without her support it would not have happened. So I'd just like to acknowledge that. And second, most of the work, although we're up here talking, is done by the probation office, and Kevin Egley, and with the support of the chief probation officer, is what really makes our program work. So I'm happy to be a part of the program, and I'll give my thoughts later.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Bonnie Watson Coleman, and I'm an assembly representative representing Middle New Jersey, particularly Mercer County. Way back in 2009, I spearheaded a series of hearings across the state and invited both incarcerated individuals, formerly incarcerated individuals, their families, supporters, and researchers from around the country, just looking at the issues of the cost associated with recidivism in the state of New Jersey and the cost associated with incarcerating as opposed to providing treatments and other options. I'm glad to be on this particular panel so that we could discuss, I think this is the dream panel. What would we design the future to be? Because during those hearings, we addressed a number of the issues that even Jason spoke about that we thought were being appropriately implemented in state government. And I'm sorry to say that with some of the important legislation in addition to having information as you're exiting the system, having access to health care as you're exiting the system, having access to literacy training while you're in the system, all of those things are required in the law in the state of New Jersey, but I don't think that they're rigorously enforced under this administration. And I think we need to take a pause and hold people accountable, and let's just see where we are. Because that was only a piece. As I did these hearings and heard this information coming from various venues to me, I recognized that even with our vision, we were only dealing with a piece of it. So we've got important pieces that we've been working on, particularly the senator and Brother Brooks and a number of people on Ban the Box so that people can have a job. We recognize that we've got to have substance as we move through this system, not just a place to put you, but a place that an individual goes to as he or she is exiting the system that is substantive and is responsive and prepares you to re-enter society and be a productive taxpayer in the state of New Jersey. And I think that as we talk about designing the system for the future, we need to be addressing those issues here today. I'm delighted to be serving with this very distinguished panel up here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, and I'm John Valverde. I'm Associate Executive Director of the Osborne Association in New York City. Greetings from the South Bronx. And we serve 8,000 people a year, including incarcerated, formerly incarcerated men, women, their families, along with the children of incarcerated parents. And we're very proud in New York City to be able to talk about a 25% reduction in the prison population, and to stand with New Jersey, who also has about a 25% reduction in the prison population, and to begin to be part of the conversation that is saying perhaps the end of the era of mass incarceration is moving in that, we're moving in that direction. But I think it's very important that we recognize there is a lot of work to be done. And if we rest on this feeling that, well, the prison populations are being reduced, then we are not going to achieve the results that we can and that we want to. So I'm happy to be on this panel to discuss a little bit about where we're going to be 10 years from now and how today really set the tone for the changes we envision and the world that we envision, a future with possibility for all people. Thank you very much.
I'm Adam Friedman. I'm a Deputy Director at Jersey City Employment and Training Program, where I'm helping set up the new prisoner reentry program there. We're partnering with the county and County Department of Corrections and Family Services. Before that, I worked for 5 years with John and Jim and Evan Mashula and Julio Medina at Exodus Transitional Community, a reentry agency in East Harlem. And after that, I worked for a few years at in East Harlem at Steps to End Family Violence, where we helped domestic violence survivors, a lot of them at Rikers Island. So I'm certainly happy to talk about the future and some of the great things they're doing in Hudson County now.
Thank you.
My name is David Rothenberg. I was born in Hackensack Hospital, which legitimatizes my being here today, because I live in New York City. In 1967, I was working in the theater and produced a prison drama called Fortune in Men's Eyes. And with the actors, I went to Rikers Island, my first experience in visiting a prison. And when I walked around, I recognized that it was an exercise in futility, that no matter what those young men were there for in the juvenile section, that as a result of that experience, seemed to me that they couldn't be any better. And that started my involvement, and within a year I started an organization called the Fortune Society, shifted vocations, and became the director of an organization that works with men and women coming out of prison. Coming over here this morning, wandering around the campus looking for this lost building, I ran into another gentleman who was also had a look of bewilderment, and I asked if he was coming to the conference, and he said he was. And I asked him why, and he said that his son, who's 25, has his 7th incarceration on drugs, and he wanted to know what the answer was. And I said, well, this conference is for you and for your son. And he said, are there any answers? And I said, there are no fast answers, but I tell you this, that we